Okay, guys, I would like to preface this episode with a caution, word of caution, warning, whatever you want to call it. If you are sensitive to this topic, if you're easily offended, please do not watch this. I encourage you to cut it off now. I could care less about views. It's for people that are interested in what I am talking about. Let's get into the episode. Well, welcome back to Alt Who Does the Most Mental Health Edition, man. I am so glad that you have clicked on this. If you went past the warning that I sent out. So we are talking about religious trauma syndrome. A lot of people are like, what's that? I know a bunch of Christians are. And it goes beyond Christianity. It's spread across all religions a little bit. But Christianity is a big factor, and I've got some stats for you. I've got definitions, a little bit of the history. It's a newer mental health condition, and just hear me out. Bear with me through this episode as I try to break down. We're going to scratch the surface of it today, so to speak. I have been affected by this too. We're going to go into, like I said, some statistics, some anecdotal, and some things that I have written in my own philosophy books. So, what is religious trauma syndrome? Well, I will give you a little history lesson, very short and brief. It was first coined by an American psychologist in 2011 by Marlene. I hope I'm not going to say her last name wrong. If I do, forgive me, guys. Marlene Winell. It's spelled Winell. So she had, and it's defined as it results from an event or a series of events, relationships, or circumstances within or connected to religious beliefs or structures that is experienced by an individual as overwhelming or disruptive and has lasting adverse effects on a person's mental, social, or even spiritual well-being. So I'm using some stats based off the Pew Research Center. I know a lot of Christians probably know about that, religious people in general. Pew Research Center is a reputable study site that they do studies by. A lot of people were talking about, speaking of John Bevere, he runs a podcast. He's a pastor. He's on YouTube. You can look him up. I listen to him. I listen to everybody. I like to hear all points of view, not just a one side and then screw the other side and screw all the other points of view out there. I like to hear everybody's points of view so I can come up with my own and think for myself critically. But a lot of people are talking about, oh man, there's so many people running, falling away from the church. So this apocalyptic book you call the Bible, or the holy books, biblios in the Greek means books. So the holy books. Oh, it's the apostasy of the great turning away. Well, stats show that there's more to it than prophecy being fulfilled. Real quick, by age 30, people even raised in a religious household, up to 31% of Christians become unaffiliated with the church. They either become non-theist or just go about life. Not everything has to be religious, spiritual. By later in life, that means after 30, in older years, it increases by 7%. So you could say between 37 and 38%. I think the website said 37 to 37% become unaffiliated. There was a 2023 study done where a third, and it was roughly a third, 27 to 33% of adults have experienced religious trauma syndrome at some point in their lives. This also number is kind of crazy how they coincide with the previous numbers I just mentioned. But it increases to 37% if you include the symptoms. Now, a .gov site, I went on .gov to a website called Futile Fate of Faith. A lot of this usually gets minimized or reduced to PTSD symptoms. So they go to a doctor and they're telling the doctor their symptoms, and not the whole shebang, the whole story of what their life story of what they've been through. So the number could be much higher. This comes from now you're probably asking, well, how does religious trauma syndrome happen? So it's trauma within the religious community, right? Yes, and it's from a highly abusive environment. Abusive? Did I say that right? Highly abusive environment within the church. We're just gonna stick with Christianity because that's what I grew up with, and that's what the research is based off today. Fear-based doctrines. So people don't know it, but when you're introduced to at a young age, like I was, and many Christians, people just stuck in tradition, get taught about this hell, the lake of fire, lake of burning sulfur. In fact, it's pretty specific. This doctrines of damnation, but yet the whole world sees. I'll just put this out there. If you don't know, the TBN, if it's still a thing, that's what the world sees as Christianity, this prosperity gospel. Now you're saying, no, that's not true. That's not true. That's not my church. Not my church. Okay, well, that's what the world is seeing. The Joel Osteens, the Creflo Dollar, you name Joyce Meyer. What was his name? I forget. All the big ones if you're a Christian, all the big names that's on TV. That's what the world sees. That's what the world thinks Christianity is. Real talk. If you don't believe me, go to another country and try to find a Christian channel. It's going to be TBN if they're still a thing, if they haven't changed their name. And here's the thing real quick before I keep going into what abusive environments can look like and things like that. I do want to say many Christians will say, oh, no. It's not we're not preaching prosperity. In fact, we're supposed to take up on our own cross and follow Jesus, right? Well, Jesus said in John that he came that we would have a more abundant life. To me at least, and I could be schooled on this, you can't have it's a paradox kind of, and I'm going to break out my philosophy book, guys. I've written tons of stuff in here. There's plenty of pages where I haven't written stuff, but there's a lot of stuff in here. Turn to the pages where I have written stuff. But anyways, if you're just listening to this, where was I? With the gosh, I lose my train of thought most of the time. But the world mainly sees these TBN broadcasters, prosperity gospel, but you cannot have abundance and in suffering coexisting. Can you? When I think of an abundant life, I think of good health. I think of, and this is why they're preaching the prosperity gospel. I think of good mental health. I think of just good things happen in your life. Now, that's not the case in reality. Not everybody has a happy ending. Not everybody has a good life. Not everybody's born with two parents around. Some people are born, don't know their parents. There's so many different nuances that we could get into from people's different walks of life, and we think everybody should end up finding Christ somehow. And I'm not going to go on a religious tangent with this. We're going to try to hone in on religious trauma syndrome, but I have been affected by it. It was the second church I ended up going to in my younger years at the age of 7. This pastor, as I grew up, got indoctrinated in fear of hell and shit, you kind of smoke, drink, get tattoos, you're going to hell. So I did all of them. I'm going to hell, guys. Just playing. I'm not. When I dated his granddaughter, because they learned that I was drinking, dipping, stuff like that. He came into Zaxby's, and I think I said this in a previous episode. He told me if it wasn't for him being my pastor, he'd whoop my ass in Zaxby's that day. Well, what was holding him back? God? A fear of hell? Anyways, I digress. Another part of a highly abusive environment within the religious community is being criticized for one's identity or beliefs, or even doubts and questions. People have questions, and the church highly suppresses it. And I'm going to switch over to my philosophy book real quick, guys, to tell you about and these are what I have come up with, and I might share a little bit more. I mean, I'm telling you, I've got I mean, this looks like a Bible itself. And I even said in here that I had reconverted back to Christianity, but it doesn't look the same as your Bible Belt thing. So, dangers and risk of indoctrination. Hear me out. Suppression of critical thinking. This is accepting beliefs without critically evaluating and questioning them. We do that in every aspect of our life except when it comes to religion and spirituality. 2, vulnerability to manipulation and exploitation. Once critical thinking goes out the door, our minds are open to be fed lies and to be hurt by others. 3, narrow worldview and intolerance to others' views. This is the big one, guys. I mean, they're all big, but there's a very narrow worldview within Christianity. The Hindus are wrong. The Buddhists are wrong. They're led astray. Something happened back in history. They're forefathers. We blame the forefathers. What? Come on, guys. Your worldview is the only one correct. Now, I said how selfish and immoral. You don't consider other people. There's no considering other people. 4, impeding personal growth and societal progress. We grow when we learn new things. You can thank the thinkers and the inventors, the creatives out there for societal progress. You think science for all the technology. And here it is, psychological distress and trauma, which is what we're talking about. And I have personally been affected by this, which leads me into the next piece of the highly abusive environment within the church. There is gossip. Oh my God. I know you've heard the word gossip, but have you been gossiped about, whether it's true or not? Gossiping about one's wrongdoings, or just personal info that people don't want shared, man. People go and flap their jaws. That's why I don't even like getting close to people anymore, because people go run and flap their jaws. The church should have HIPAA laws enforced, I believe. You should be able to, this is going to be a little extreme, guys, and forgive me. I'm probably a little manic. There should be HIPAA, just like in the medical field, but in the religious get out of taxes. They shouldn't get away from HIPAA. If you have information shared within and you're a church member, say you're a church member, and you get something shared within the community, especially the religious community, your church, that you didn't want shared with others, you should be able to sue them. You think I'm playing? Because you could really, it hurts people. I mean, it hurts people down to their core. And so this is why we have people walking away from the faith. It's not this fulfilling a prophecy. If anything, the Christians are doing it. No wonder Revelation says, Jesus is saying, depart from me, you workers of iniquity. I never knew you. Yet, before that, they're saying, Jesus, didn't we cast out devils in your name? That doesn't sound like non-believers to me. That sounds like Christians, guys. And there's also disagreements and interpretations of religious texts. So people will leave churches and get hurt because they believe this passage of scripture means something, and somebody, the pastor or somebody else, deacon, bishop, it doesn't matter. There's disagreement, so there's discord. They don't like how this person thinks. I don't like how that preacher preaches. I'm going to another church. Then they get hurt by the other church, So it's just this constant hamster wheel. A lot of people church hop. Some people get into like cult-like churches. In my town, there are several cult-like churches. I will not name them out of privacy reasons and respect, something that I have not been shown very much by the church, especially when it comes to behind closed doors. Yeah. Pretty bad, the numbers, and the staggering numbers that I would say within another 5 years it would inch up to half of people turning away. Now I do want to not just hone in on this, but to help people that are going through this, because this can manifest as anxiety, depression, eating disorders like anorexia, self-hatred, nihilism. It could look like, this ain't even scripted. This could look like all kinds of things. PTSD, like I had mentioned earlier. People questioning themselves. And when I think of doubt, man, it makes me think of John the Baptist in the Bible. When he called out King Herod for what he had done, committing adultery, wasn't it? They had jailed John the Baptist. And Even John the Baptist. There's two people in the Bible I can name right off the dome. John the Baptist sent some of his disciples out. I guess he had some friends on the outs, his disciples. Sent them to Jesus because he was doubting. You can look this up. It's in one of the Gospels. Sent them to Jesus and asked, hey, are you the anointed one? Or are you the Messiah? Or should we look for someone else? And guess what Jesus did? It's pretty amazing. Christians really need to read the red letters a little more closely and the scriptures and passages associated with Jesus or Yeshua talking and answering. He answered these disciples who had asked from John, being sent from John in prison by King Herod, hey, are you the anointed one? And he tells them, hey, tell him that the dead are raised, the lame walk, the blind see. He goes on to mention like 3 or 4 things. Go tell him these things. He didn't condemn him for doubting. So the condemnation from the church has to stop, or your pews are going to steadily empty throughout the next 5 years. Now we're saying since Charlie Kirk's death, and I am appalled by what happened personally. There has been said, oh, the church numbers grew, attendance grew that week, but I think that's kind of a influx because of a disaster happening. When a disaster like that happens, usually people congregate and look to seek help and guidance from something higher than themselves. We always look. We're always looking up to something. Now maybe not the sky, but we have something we're looking up to. Role models. This, that, and the other. But I do want to help those that are suffering from religious trauma syndrome. People that have hurt you. People that have said hurtful things. People that have used scripture against you. People that have literally weaponized the books, the holy books, to hurt you, to gossip, that slander your name, call you out when it's inappropriate. Because my thing is, if you shouldn't be saying it if it's not kind, true, and necessary. I'm guilty of this too, but I don't claim to be this hardcore zealous Christian, man. I do claim to try to follow Christ's example, but I do not claim this Christianity that is in the Bible Belt, the southeastern part of the United States. I do not claim that. A lot of them are bigots. Ban me, I don't care. You can unsubscribe. I'm just telling the truth. And I'm not telling people to step away from the faith. I'm definitely not. If you're living in it and you're living righteously and you're living and doing good to others, considering the poor, giving to the poor, helping people in need. And what does Jesus say in Matthew 25? How he separates the sheep from the goats. You gave me food when I was hungry. You gave me drink when I was thirsty. You clothed me when I was naked. You visited me when I was in prison. You came to me when I was sick. That's how he's going to judge the Gentiles. Read all of Matthew chapter 25. But to help the people with religious trauma syndrome, there's a few things that popped up on my mind and some things I Googled and done a little research. Music therapy. So something I noticed early on growing up, Christian music bothered me. It always seems sad. We all got problems, but God's the one that helps us. We help us. We are the ones. God, the church literally says Christ is in us. So if we can realize that, we bring ourselves out of it. And this is not to discredit Christ in any way. I think Christ would condone this. That if Christ is in us, then we can lift ourselves out of the damage. But Christian music did bother me growing up. And as I got older, it's kind of sad. I'm not going to lie. So music therapy. Go find music that you enjoy, that you can actually, dance a jig to, something that lifts your spirits. Whether it be hip hop, whether it be country music, whether it be pop, whether it be rock, metal, indie, dubstep. It doesn't matter, guys. Music is probably one of the best inventions to ever happen, in my opinion. Socialization with the right people. Getting around folks that will help improve your life experience. If the church has been hurting you, get around people that think like you. I mean, birds of the feather flock together, right? Medications can always be something that can help if you are suffering from symptoms of this, such like I had mentioned, anxiety, depression, all the bad things that nobody wants to feel. Counseling, going to talk to a therapist is always a good idea. Licensed clinician of some sort. And if you have to, step away from your faith and observe other faiths, possibly, or none at all. Go out and seek your own spiritual journey. And I don't say that in a selfish way, like, oh, I'm supporting Lucifer's idea. No, that's that religious propaganda that the church spits at people, man. If the church, if you want to know, if you're watching and you want to know what you can do to help people with religious trauma syndrome, and this is relatively new, even though it's probably been going on way longer, I wrote down some things and take notes. If you actually want to help people like you say you do, instead of running folks off, beating them over the head with the Bible, I've always said too that if Jesus came back again for a second time, but he wasn't coming back to bring everybody to and create the new heaven and the new earth, and he just came back like he did the first time, the church would run him out. They would run him out of the church. I promised you that he would. They did back in the day. They would today. So, the number one thing, accept folks as they are, just like Jesus did. Accept folks as they are. Second, refrain from gossip, including whether it's true or slander or lies. I say that because don't spread people's business. Don't spread what people are going through. Don't call out in front of everybody. Is it kind, true, or necessary, man? Yeah, don't chastise people for doubting or questioning. Try to help them answer the questions. That could help tremendously. And also, don't cut or shun, people and cut people out of your life just because they don't believe the same as you. Putting people, as an cutting people out and throwing them out as an outsider is such a bad thing, and it's terrible for the mental psyche. I don't condone it, guys, so don't do that. And at the end of the day, guys, real talk, no one really knows what this life is about, the meaning for it. Nobody has seen heaven for sure. Nobody really knows. Let's be honest. If you're 100% honest with yourself, do you really know? You say, oh yeah, I know. No, knowledge requires evidence and proof. Show me the evidence and proof. But I appreciate you guys for watching this. Hopefully I didn't come off as super harsh. I didn't want to be harsh, but I did feel like this needed to be touched on. Just a little one-on-one. Like I said, we were scratching the surface of it. Because the church likes to have authority and beyond just, we have authority over sickness, over demons and all the things, over addiction. But then they want to be like, we have authority over everything, government, and we want to control. Remember the Crusades, guys? There was the Muslim Crusades. There were millions killed in the name of religion. How is that a good thing? How is that a good thing, guys? Thank you for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, give it a like. I don't think I'll get a like, but if you do, like it. Subscribe to the channel for more mental health episodes. This will probably be my last religious one because I want to dive into all mental health aspects. And ones that aren't even pertaining to me, like schizophrenia. I do suffer from bipolar disorder, not schizophrenia, but I would like to do a little, one-on-one with schizophrenia, all of the disorders, and just things that come to mind, guys. So I will see you guys in the next mental health episode. You already know O2 does the most. Thank you so much for watching and taking the time out of your day. Leave a comment, share your thoughts. I'm open for discussion. Peace out. Have a good day.